content contains strong language and may not be suitable for children. This content is primarily for adults as this is a trucking channel and truckers have filthy mouths. Please don't tweak if I say viewer discretion is advised.
Sweet.
What's going on? How's everybody doing? Come on in. Make sure you guys hit that like button. How's everybody doing tonight? How's everybody doing tonight? Come on in. Come on in. Moderators. Shout out to all my moderators. Let's keep our eyes and our ears open. How's everybody doing tonight? Shout out to Shannon Sotomayor. What's going on? How's everybody doing? D Jenkins. Shout out to everybody that's in the MGM. How's everybody doing? It's D Walk, Demetrius in it. That person looks new. Israel, what's going on? Big Herm, what up? Judge McGee, Ken Hooten, Big Herm, Great Polo. Shout out to all the moderators. Shout out to everybody that's in the MGM game. Jonathan, what's going on? C Express, It's D Walk. Demetrius, Big Herm, what up? Timberland TV. Demetrius must be new. He asking a lot of questions that a new person would ask. What's going on? Trucking with T. Paul Smith, what up? Jonathan, what's up? Marcellus, what up? Yeah, man. Yeah. What's going on? How's everybody doing? We back to business tonight. I want to talk about cargo van versus, but not even versus. I know I got my cargo van versus box truck series part 1 and 2, but this is going to be more cargo van or box truck. This is going to be what's going on. What's up? What's up? This is going to be more cargo van or box truck, more pertaining to an individual or individuals that are looking to get into logistics and don't know which lane to get into, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a brief crash course. It's not going to be a long version like the cargo van versus box truck 1 or cargo van versus box truck part 2 or the box truck dreams cargo van money. It's going to be a little bit of all of them, but in a condensed. We're going to try to keep it in a 30-minute lecture and then maybe 30 minutes for Q&A, and then I'm out of here. All right, so come on in. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Let me know where you guys are checking in from. How y'all feeling? I feel. All right, so boom. One of the main things that I get approached about all the time: cargo van, box truck, cargo van, box truck. Which should I do? Which makes more money? Blah 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 blah. All right, so boom. First thing you need to do if you're looking to get into logistics is you need to do your business plan. All right, you need to do your business plan. That's very important. I do have a lecture on how to set up your business plan for a trucking or a cargo van business in the members only. You're welcome to go listen to that lecture and copy my outline of how to set up a business plan for logistics business, right? It's catered specifically for logistics business, whether you want to start a cargo van or a box truck, all right? The next thing you need to research is your market, right? This is going to help determine whether you should start a cargo van or a box truck. But before I get into market, let me touch briefly on the box truck dreams cargo van money, all right? First thing you need to do is be honest with yourself. And that's what a lot of people aren't. A lot of people that want to start a business aren't honest with themselves, right? And this is why I created the box truck dream cargo van money. All right. There's a hierarchy into, this trucking thing. Obviously it starts at the bottom, which is where I started and which is where I would recommend most people to start. But I know we're living in a society now of instant gratification and everybody wants to get to the top quick, fast, in a hurry. So when I tell people start from the bottom, and I think the very bottom is starting with what you already have, which would be your personal vehicle, right? There's a lot of logistics companies, 3PLs that you can go to that have routes for your personal vehicles, dedicated routes. I'm not talking about your gig apps. those are there too, right? And you can utilize those to supplement your income revenue, alongside of running your personal vehicle for a 3PL. Some of the opportunities 3PLs have for your personal vehicle would be medical supply delivery, medical pharmaceutical delivery. Also, there's a lot of opportunities for e-commerce delivery. So e-commerce uh, parcel package delivery, and then from there you could supplement your income with signing your personal vehicle up doing gig apps, your Amazon Flex, your Roadie, your Curie, GoShare. The list goes on. There's so many different um, apps nowadays that you can sign up with, even if you are using your car to do food delivery. All right, utilizing what you have to earn income is probably the easiest and most affordable way to come in. Right, not everybody is fortunate enough to have uh, 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 the resources to uh, uh, source a cargo van or a box truck, whether it be a 16-footer or a 26-footer, what have you. Some people have to start from the bottom, earn the money, and then gradually grow from there. This is the way I would recommend, even to an individual who did have the capital. And the reason why I would still recommend it to an individual who still does have the capital, because this gives the individual an opportunity to learn the logistics industry on a smaller, more affordable scale. What a lot of people that are coming into business uh, don't realize, and especially a lot of new people that I see coming into business in this day and age that we live in of instant gratification and social media influencers, and a lot of people that people see on the internet, and they just, I don't want to say get sold a dream, but you know fall into this ideal that once you go get this, then you're instantly going to start making money, this, that, and the third. And they don't understand that there's a learning curve associated with entering into any business, and that learning curve costs you money, right? The learning curve costs you money. So if you can enter into an industry and learn that industry at a cheaper cost, utilizing what you have, right? You can, when you do decide that, okay, you've earned enough money and you can scale, when you go out and purchase your first piece of equipment, whether it be a cargo van or a box truck, some of the entry level uh, uh, things that a new business owner would learn and have to pay the cost of that learning curve, you've already learned it in your personal vehicle, and it's not going to cost you as much as if you went out and acquired a vehicle and you're responsible for paying that note, or if you went out and rented a vehicle, you're responsible for paying that note, and you're taking losses, and that's adding, that's affecting your bottom line. All right. So being honest with yourself, right? All right. So boom. Now, here's the thing. All right. If you do decide to come in and purchase you a piece of equipment, you gotta, like I've seen a lot of people come in with a 26-foot box truck, and they barely have enough money to get up and going and acquire the truck. Right. They're robbing Peter to pay Paul. As soon as they acquire the truck, whether they rent it or whether whether they rent it or whether they go out and purchase a truck, as soon as they get it, they already messed up. They already robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? So if you decide to come in on a 26-foot box truck and you got just enough money to get in, that's not enough money. Well, Bart, what do you mean? If I got just enough money to get in, I'm in. That should be enough. No, it's not enough. You know why? Because you get the truck, you in, now you broke, so you have no cash flow. You have no working capital, right? And see, this is what a lot of new people that I come across on the call-in show and my DM I talk to, they don't understand this. And I get it. You wouldn't understand because you're a new business owner, and the people that you listen to, they just do a reel and they tell you DOT, BOC3, da 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 da, and you think that's all you need. No, you gotta have cash flow, you gotta have working capital, right? Because things do arise. I've had people on my testimonial show. I've had people call in on the call-in show that literally after acquiring that truck, running their first load, the truck broke down. We had one guy that literally, he got the truck, got everything, picked up the load, and while he's traveling across country to go to the destination to drop off the load, the truck broke down. He never even completed his first run. So imagine coming in with just enough, getting your first load, saying, okay, well, I'm gonna run this first load, and when I get to the drop off and I drop it off, I'm gonna factor the load and I'm gonna get a little cash flow. What if the truck breaks down? You ain't even got no money to get to the next town, or Uber to the next town, get the truck towed, nothing. You ain't got a pot to piss in, the window to throw out of, and not a dime in your pocket. You trying to call back home for somebody to put some money on your cash app. You got to have working capital because you need to make sure that you're prepared for the unexpected. Now, how much working capital? That all depends on the individual. That all depends on the lane that you're running. I say make sure you have enough working capital for whatever it is you're looking to do. Obviously, if you're running over the road, you're a little bit more, you're at a little bit more of a risk if something were to happen. Whereas if you're running local, right? If you're running local and let's say you buy a truck and it breaks down, you're local, you call a local tow truck, you tow it to your local repair place or tow it to the front of your home or whatever. And the cost is not going to be as high as if the truck breaks down and you're out in the middle of nowhere. All right. That is a different cost. All right. And we're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars if it happens when you're over the road. So you got to make sure you have enough working capital. Now, you may have enough working capital, but you may not have enough for a box truck, but you may have enough for a cargo van, meaning you could get all the, authority, your licensing, acquire the cargo van, however you do it, renting or purchasing. We're not going to get into renting versus purchase. We're going to do that on another quick hit show. But however you decide to acquire it, you acquire it. Your licensing, your insurance, and everything, right? Because you're coming in with a smaller vehicle, so the cost of entry will be a little bit cheaper, right? So that way you may have some working capital, right? So you have to be honest with yourself. You see what I'm saying? You got to be honest with yourself. If you have box truck dreams, but you only got cargo van money, then you need to take a step back, reassess everything, and see if it is better for you to come in with a cargo van and then work, really, really hard and maybe one day scale up. Now, another thing that you need to look at when you're trying to figure out if you want to come in with a cargo van or a box truck is your market. And see, this is what a lot of people don't do. All right. A lot of people come to me and they say, hey, Mark, I just got this box truck or I just got this cargo van and I can't find any work. So my next question is, well, where do you live? Well, I live in Timbuktu, Idaho. Where how close is Boise, Idaho? Oh, Boise is that's in the city. That's about 4 or 5 hours away. So where you live in middle America? You live in the middle of nowhere? Yeah, I live in a small town. Where's the the nearest city? Well, the nearest city is Boise. It's about 4 hours away. Yeah, I bought the cargo van. I was thinking about doing local 3PL work, or I was thinking about doing maybe some whatever, some Amazon Flex, whatever they thought that they were going to do, but they didn't do a market analysis prior to going out, starting the business and purchasing the equipment. And then they decided to go look after they already done spent their money, right? You have to do a market analysis first. If you want to come in, let's say with a cargo van to do small parcel delivery and you live in the middle of nowhere, 9 times out of 10, there's not going to be a 3PL near you. 3PLs don't build multi-million square foot facilities in the middle of nowhere. They build them near highways, near major cities, right? And then the rural areas that you may live in get service from the 3PL companies that have teams that travel downstate or further distances to service you, right? So if you live in the middle of nowhere, this is why it's important to do a market analysis, because you may want to start a cargo van business, but there may not be any opportunity near you because of your location, right? So that may automatically force you into box trucking, and not even box trucking on a local level. For that same reason, your only option may be OTR, right? Because OTR will take you anywhere, right? So this is something that you also have to, factor in. Now, let's say you do live in a major metropolitan town with a, high density with a lot of people, and there's 3PLs there. You got some Amazon facilities nearby, and there's just a lot of opportunity, whether it's for a cargo van or for box truck, right? Now you have to decide which one is better, right? You still have to factor in the box truck dream cargo van money. All right. Once you figured that out, let's say uh you have a you decide to go with cargo van, right? Because you want to start from humble beginnings. You don't want to start away from the bottom, but you don't want to risk the box truck either, because you don't think you have quite enough capital to go through the learning curve. So you get a cargo van, you see that there's opportunities for local work with 3PLs. You see that there's opportunities to grow a fleet with companies like Lasership and On Track. You also see that there's a multitude of different opportunities for gig apps. All right. If you decide to go box truck, you see that there's curbside opportunities, right? You see that there's also final mile opportunities. You might too want to start a moving company. So, you live in a city with, let's say, 1 million people or 2 million people or whatever. So there's a bunch of opportunities there. And then you might want to do a more deep dive analysis on the median and the mean income, houses versus apartments, because all this matters when you are doing a market analysis on what lane that you want to start, right? Because let's say you start a moving company, 9 times out of 10, if you're in a populated city and there's a lot of apartment buildings, the volume of moves would be higher versus you living in a town where there's more homes than apartments, right? Because people who usually buy homes do what? They don't move as often. Person who's buying a home, they may not move for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years or never, right? Person who's in an apartment, from my experience of being in the moving industry for many, many years, person who moves in an apartment, they move every year pretty much. Person who moves in an apartment, believe it or not, every year they're calling you to move them again, right? Because they're chasing that cheaper rate, because most places go up a few percent every year. And if a person's career isn't scaling with the cost of inflation, then they have to move to where it's still affordable for them. Or if a person is scaling up in their job, then they might want to move somewhere that's a little bit more luxurious from where they were when you moved to the place you moved from, the place you moved them from the previous year, right? So being in a major third largest city in the country, there's a lot of apartments here, right? And I could give you a laundry list of clients over the years that we moved every single year. Sometimes we move some customers multi times a year. I remember one lady, we moved her 7 times in one year. You know what I'm saying? So you have to really do the research on your market to really help determine where the opportunity lies, so that you can make the decision, do I want to start a cargo van or do I want to start a box truck, right? Now, if it were me, right, and I were on the new, meaning I didn't know anything, I would do exactly what I did back in 2010. I would start with my personal vehicle. Now, if I were to re-enter back into the market today with all my years of experience and just coming back into the market, I would come back in with the cargo van, right? The reason why is because there's a little bit more flexibility there. I'm in a market where there's plenty of opportunity, where I can bob, weave, and maneuver with a cargo van, I think, a lot more than a 26-foot box truck. I'm not under the restraints of a 26-foot box truck. I feel like in my market, there's a lot of opportunities for dedicated, and I can also supplement there's a multitude of things on the gig app market for cargo vans and trucks that I can supplement my income throughout the rest of the day, and still make a nice chunk of change at a lower cost and getting a 26-foot box truck, and you know doing curbside and uh, and paying the cost of that, understanding that I am going to want to scale, and understanding that I know sourcing talent in today's market is a little bit more difficult than it was years prior. And I would understand if I wanted to scale my cargo van, right, after I come in with the one and I want to scale up, I know that sourcing talent would be a little bit easier. I would understand. I would be with the understanding that I would have to scale more vehicles at a lower profit margin, but it would be easier to source the talent and retain the talent because I my pool of applicants opens up a little bit more than if I was running, let's say, big and bulky, or moving, and in some cases curbside, because you know women applicants aren't too keen on applying for those opportunities. One is because of the physical aspect of it, right? But with a small parcel, right, this opens my applicant pool up to both men and women, right? And like I talk about all the time, if you pay attention, like I do, a lot of these Amazon DSP people that I see, at least in my market, are women. I see more women than I do men. I'm starting to see a lot of FedEx drivers, women. I never used to see FedEx, delivery people, women. Same with UPS, but a lot of these DSP delivery people in my market are women, right? So I understand why the dynamic is shifting. So as a business person, understanding that I'm coming in to scale, I have to make sure that I'm entering into a lane where I'm not going to have a hard time sourcing talent, right? So this is all the things that you have to think about uh, becoming an entrepreneur, right? Because you see a lot of people that come in and they may understand how to run the business, and you may catch a few people that come in with a 26-foot box truck and they know their cost per mile and they're profitable and they're looking to go to that second truck. And let's say they acquire it, they get a driver, he leaves after a month, they get another driver, he leaves after 2 weeks. Now the truck is sitting for 3 months and they can't find a driver, and they're complaining that they can't source talent for that second truck, all while they're still paying the note on it. So they're finding people, they can't retain them for the obvious reasons that we know about, but we're not going to dig into that right now. And it's costing them money. All right. We know why. So you have to do your research uh, 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 prior to starting your business so that you don't get caught, left holding the bag to the point where you have equipment and you really didn't do a full deep dive analysis of what, you know, operating a business fully consist of, right? Um, I know people think that cargo van business is less profitable than a box truck business, and it may be in some aspects, but I can tell you this, and there are some aspects where cargo vans make more than box trucks, right? What can you do with a cargo van? You can do OTR expedited, right? Which I'm not a big fan of, right? You can do local uh, dedicated work, right? There's a lot of office supply delivery that's still available in today's times that you can do with a cargo van. There's also a lot of medical supplies, and there's a laundry list of gig apps. There's a lot of people that make a lot of money just off the gig apps. If you watch Cars and Cribs, shout out to Cars and Cribs, he makes a shit ton of money off the gig apps, right? But you got to understand the market, right? He's not in the city, but he's outside the city. But he's outside a major metropolitan city in Chicago. And he works those suburbs, and he can bounce around all those suburbs and make a bag of money, right? That may not be the case for everybody. That's why you got to do your market analysis. You can't just come into the business and not do a competitive analysis, a market analysis, and not really understand your market and buy your equipment and then coming and saying, man, ain't no work. You were supposed to do this prior. You may be forced into a box truck based on your market. So even if you want to do a cargo van, you may not be able to because your market won't allow it because the opportunity isn't there, right? Your only option may be a 26-foot box truck OTR. right? See, this is how a lot of people fail before they even get started. This is how a lot of people fail before they even get started. It's a lot more in business than just getting your articles, right? Whether you go LLC or corporation, getting your EIN and getting your DOT, your MC, and your insurance. There's a lot more that goes into starting a business than just those components. Everything that I'm talking about as far as the thought process going into what vehicle to get, what lane to get. If you watched the live stream from yesterday when we talked about insurance, if you watched the live stream when I talked about this rental truck, because what I'm doing right now is a box truck 101 series. We're taking it back to the basics. All this, all these things in these 1 hour little live streams that I've been doing the past couple of days are things that you need to take into consideration prior to even starting a business. This is why so many people fail. They already failed before they even got started. You may want to stay local, but if your market doesn't, if your market doesn't allow for local opportunity, your only option may be to go over the road. You may not have a choice. You may not be blessed to live in or outside New York City. You may not be blessed to live inside or right outside Los Angeles. You may not be blessed to live inside or right outside Chicago, where you're talking about millions and millions of population of people, high density and opportunity. Right? You may not be in that situation, right? Right? So if you're not and you're in a smaller rural area and you want to stay local for whatever reasons, a lot of people want to come in and stay local because they just had a new baby, they just got married, or they just don't desire to go over the road for whatever reason. But your market may not offer these opportunities because it's just a small market. So your only option may to be go over the road. And if you don't want to go over the road, then this is not the industry for you. This goes back to what I'm saying, being honest with yourself. There's a lot of variables that you have to take into consideration in determining if, one, you want to start with a cargo van or box truck. And this is the things that people don't look into. This is why I'm telling you this. I'm not one of the content creators that's going to say you get a box truck or get a cargo van and make a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to tell you, okay, you can get a box truck, you can get a cargo van, but these are the things that you need to look into prior to deciding. You have to understand your market depending on what you want to do, right? So once again, my, way I would go into it is I would start humbly, literally. If I came in today not knowing anything, I would utilize what I have and I would work my way up from there, whether I got capital or don't have capital, right? If I were to re-enter into the industry today with all my years of experience, and I'm a guy who, cross dock, warehouse, fleet of 15 trucks, right? I'm talking about, as far as I on a big level. So a person who, got to a point way up here, who understands the industry inside and out. If I were to re-enter today, I would re-enter with a cargo van. Because I understand my market, I understand the opportunities that exist, and I think I could run a lot more efficiently and scale a lot more faster with the cargo van because of the opportunities that exist, because I know I could hire people faster and also retain them. I think I would have less liability as far as, things that a lot of people go through when they're dealing with the larger trucks, right? I live in a market with a lot of viaducts, right? We're number one for intermodal, all right? So all the freight comes through Chicago pretty much. Why? Because we're central of the country, right? We're number one for freight intermodal, right? So there's a lot of viaducts here. right? Not all of them are 13.6 or taller. You got some that are 11. You got some that are 10.6. You got some that are 12. You got some that are 12.6. That's why you see here, a lot of trucks get roofed. And even if you have a qualified driver, you never know what happens. I've been through that. I know what it's like to have a 26-foot truck roofed. And this is a great driver I had. I wouldn't want to go through it anymore. I know I could make an X amount of money in a cargo van. That's how I would re-enter, right? Because I understand my market, I understand the opportunity. I also understand the dynamic of what it is to hire people and retain them now, right? I'm not going to enter into something where I know I'm going to have trouble finding people to run, right? If I know I want to enter into an industry and I want to scale, is another thing people fail to realize. You entering into an industry and you want to scale trucks. I want 10, 15, 20 trucks. Okay, first thing you do, you got to get a truck. You get a truck, you hire a driver after you run and you learn the business so that you can train this person. You put him in the truck. In order to get to that second truck, that first truck has to recoup the money that you put into it, make more money so that the business can acquire another truck. If you're going back into your pocket to get a second truck after you've already invested into the business should be able to sustain on its own, right? So let's say the business is profiting. In order for you to get to that second truck, then you must, one, retain that first driver. If you're constantly losing drivers, then you have to constantly replace the drivers in the truck that you already got before you can scale. So you got to hire a driver continuously to make that person happy so that you can go get a second truck, get that second truck. You still got to keep that first driver happy. Now you got to keep that second driver happy so you can retain him, because now if you lose the driver in the second truck, you can't get to the third truck because now you got to replace the driver in the second truck. So now you got to keep those two. Now if you're successful keeping those two guys happy, then you go get a third truck. Now you got to keep three guys happy. If truck one driver leaves, you can't go get a fourth truck because you got to replace truck one. So now you got to keep three. And it continues, goes on and on and on and on like that, because what we do know is that in the trucking space, there's a lot of seat hoppers, right? So all these things you have to really sit down and think about, all right? So what we know is understanding, being honest with yourself, looking at your cash flow, looking at your capital. How much money do you have, right? Do you have enough for a box truck, or do you have just enough? If you have just enough, it's not enough because now you don't have any cash flow. So that automatically puts you down to a cargo van, right? Humble beginnings is always probably the best way to go anyway. Two, understanding your market. What do you want to do? Do you want to stay local? Do you want to go OTR? All right, so look at your market. If you want to stay local, see if the opportunities exist. All right, same thing if you're in a bigger market. Do you want to go local? Do you want to stay local? Do you want to go OTR? Obviously, if you want to go OTR, OTR is OTR, right? Then there's other variables that you have to factor in going OTR if that's what you want to do all back, as far as your cost of entry, understanding that it's a competitive lane and you want to enter with a low cost of entry, as low as possible, so that you'll be able to compete on the spot market against competition a little bit better, right? So, but that we talked about that in another show. All right, so that's how, if I were, if well, that's how I think. This is the strategy I would go into and determine it in today's landscape, in this logistics industry. If I was trying to decide what's going on with a cargo van or box truck, these would be the variables that I would put into play in determining which one I'm going to go with. And then I also gave you what I would actually do if I were entering into this market, utilizing my years of experience, right? So, where are we at on the time? We 37 minutes. All right, so we'll open it up for questions. Nick Gurr says seat hoppers mainly because they get better pay elsewhere, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. When you're running OTR, it's very, very competitive. Not only is the spot market competitive, but companies are competitive. As far as hiring, everybody's. First of all, a lot of people don't want to go over the road anymore. Let's just keep it a buck. We're in a society now where everybody wants to be home. We're not in that olden day of trucking, right? where you had these guys that they live to run the road. Like you don't hear people making trucking songs anymore. Back in the day, the truckers listened to the country station, and you had country artists that would make songs specifically for truckers. You don't see that anymore. That culture, that old school culture of trucking has gone away. You got a new generation coming in. There's only so many boomers that are still alive that are out there trucking. You know those boomers that are still out there trucking. You see them, you can tell by their truck. You ain't even got to see who's in the truck. You can tell certain trucks coming up the highway what generation they were born in, right? But I'm telling you this, that generation is dying out. Newer generation, they might thought they wanted to get out there. They get out there, they don't last long. For the most part, a lot of them don't last long. But the ones that do, they're highly sought after, right? So not only are you competing for them with your peers that are smaller box truck carriers, you're competing with larger box truck carriers, and then you're competing them against the big mega carriers that are soliciting them. Hey, come over here, man. You box truck. Let me take. Come over here. Come over here. We're gonna send you to our school. Don't worry about it. We're gonna pay for it, and then we're gonna bring you in. We're gonna just give you health care, medical and health benefits straight out the gate. And here's the kicker: on top of that, we're gonna give you a $10,000 sign-on bonus, and we're gonna send you to school. You're gonna go to our school. We're gonna get you your CDL. You'll be out on the road in 3 weeks. 3-4 weeks, we hire you on the road making that money. And a $10,000 sign-on. You're competing against them as well, too. For the individual who don't mind running the road for you, small box trucker with 1 or 2 trucks, it's going to be harder for you to compete with other peers in that space or peers that are higher because they have a lot more resources and a lot more capital. And this is what a lot of people don't think about. And this is why a lot of owner operators in this space say they have a hard time finding drivers and they have a hard time retaining drivers. This is why the retention is low. They have a low retention. But a lot of people coming into the space don't think about these things. That's why I had the whole other series, box trucker or business person. If you consider yourself as a box trucker, you're probably destined to fail. Trucking and logistics is business. You go into a business as a business person that owns a trucking company. You don't go into a business as a box trucker. If that's your mindset, then you're destined to fail. And this is probably why you are struggling. You start a business as a business person that runs a trucking company, right? And a business person is thinking about every single thing that I've covered thus far, including the pros and the cons, right? The competition is fierce in a variety of things outside of just the spot market and bidding for loads. You find a driver that's willing to burn those miles and stay on the road, you better believe he's a hot commodity. Everybody wants that person. And it's going to be somebody somewhere that got a bigger bag than you that's going to do everything in their power to take them from you. The smaller you are, the newer you are, the more vulnerable you are. Because they have what I covered the other day over you, which is leverage. So you have to come in with the understanding that you have to crawl before you walk, and crawling before you walk may mean taking care of your earlier drivers, because you need to hold on to that individual. You may need to take a less piece of the pie to keep that person happy so that you can build your business up so that you can have leverage. Because drivers are highly sought after now, especially the ones that don't mind running over the road. And not just the ones that don't mind running over the road, the ones that don't mind running over the road and staying over the road. Not the ones that want to come home every week to see Boo Bay. I'm talking about the ones that once they leave, they out 60 days, 90 days. Those are the ones that you want to get. But guess what? Those are the ones that people gonna be on your ass about too, or on their ass, trying to steal them from you, offering them more money, sign-on bonuses, the whole work. You got some drivers, they'll just jump from company to company just for the sign-on bonus. All right, I'm gonna go work over there for a year. They're gonna give me 10,000. That's 2,500 a quarter. And then after I leave there, I'm gonna go over there and I'm gonna get that 10,000. And then if somebody else ain't offering a 10,000 going to year 3, then I may come back to that first company, just ride it out with them until I see something open up on the market that's got a sign on boats, and I may go bounce over there. These are all things you got to think about. All right, so we got any questions? Ran into a guy I loves, and he tried to drape me off into this CDL semi company he works with. Yeah, because they get referrals. This is what I'm saying. You got companies that are giving referrals to the drivers that they hauled over the road. Listen, you see a person out on the road, yo, tell them to come drive with us, and we're gonna here's your code. And if they come and hire, come work for us, we'll kick you back 200 or 300, whatever the referral is. So they're fierce, and you got to understand that coming into business. Bro, I'm in the 2005. I couldn't get local unless I drove OTR for a year. Dudes getting their A and getting local right away. There you have it. True. My nephew was juiced when he got his CDL talking about being OTR, but after a month he quit. So what I'm saying, a lot of these younger guys, it's not the same. So you got to look at that. The older generations are retiring or dying. Those were the true truckers. Those were the guys that actually used the CB. Those are the guys that listened to the country station with the trucking songs that were made just for truck. These are the guys that that culture is damn near extinct. There was once a culture, a real culture. I don't see that anymore. So, but those are the guys that you want to source and hire. They're just far and few between. How much will you pay a cargo van driver a week? So routes that I ran for cargo vans, I paid them a percentage. So if the route was dedicated and it paid $300, on average, I paid them 33%. All right. So it all kind of depends on the route you're running and what you negotiated, right? You get what you negotiate, right? So if you're running, because I've always operated on a guarantee, it was easier for me to already know and tell the driver, look, all right, this route pays 300. I'm going to give you 100 every single day because I know the cost of operating the route would be 100, and the company would net 100 as well. So it would split in a third. The driver would get a third. Now, if you're running, let's say, something local and you don't have a guarantee, you're being paid on a piece count, right, per piece, right, and you understand that the piece count is going to fluctuate from day to day, it's never going to be the same every single day, then that's going to be a little difficult. Some of those days you may have to take a loss, because here's the thing: if you're getting paid $2 a piece and you have a day where you get 50 pieces, that's $100. Who's going to come to work for less than $100? If you're making 100, what are you going to pay the driver? You're not going to be able to get anybody to come to work nowadays for less than $100, and that's depending on your market. Here, I can't get nobody to come work 7-8 hours for $100, right? So it all depends on, the contract, the agreement that you have. If you're getting a per piece count, you really can't pay a percentage, right? If you're getting a per piece count, you're probably going to have to pay a flat rate, and there may be some days you may have to take a loss, or you can pay them percentage on the piece, but then the piece count is going to fluctuate. So that's why I never took things that pay per piece. And even when I was running Office Depot, my leverage was, I got 9 trucks in here. I'm not taking a per piece. You got to pay me a guarantee, right? So y'all got this many open routes y'all can't find. I'm bringing this many trucks in to help y'all. I'm running a fourth of the route. It's 43 routes, and I'm running 9 of them. That's a fucking fourth, right? No, I need a guarantee. They had to oblige, right? Because I never would have made a consistent pay. I would have had days where I took losses. So you have to be able to leverage yourself and negotiate, right? So it all depends on what the the contract, how the contract is paying to determine what format you're gonna pay your driver in. Box truck. Oh, he up front. He's selling course 100 times. 500 people equals 50,000 without no cost, no overhead, just selling some dumb PDF. Yeah, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, about these. Yeah. Hey man, I always get people to talk about other people selling courses and stuff, and here's the thing when it comes to that. You know what? A lot of people complain about people when they buy mentorships and courses because they don't vet the individuals out prior to spending their money. So it's similar to what I talked about at the beginning of this lecture, right? If you don't do a full deep dive analysis and have a full understanding of what you're investing in, you have no person to blame but yourself if the business fails, right? So, there are, like, I don't know who these people are you're talking about, but there are some good influencers out there. There may not be some good influencers, but here's where I see a lot of people make mistakes at. There's not that many influencers that have been doing this very, very long. And when I say this very, very long, the actual business of trucking. A lot of these guys came in during the pandemic, right? And this is where I think a lot of the backlash and a lot of the disappointment comes from when people purchase these courses and purchase these mentorships because they find out that the information that they received once they pay for it was Googleable. Well, here's the thing. You should have Googled it, right? None of these people lied. That's one thing I can say because their journeys are documented on their channel. What was crazy to me during the pandemic and even now is like people would literally see a person put a video up, just started my box truck business, just got my rental truck, just bought my first box truck, just got my authority, just went active yesterday, and then 7 days later, hit the link below, tap in to my coaching and my mentorship. So you saw that this individual just started because their journey is documented. And you bought a mentorship and you bought a coaching session from someone that literally just showed you they're starting their business. I think everybody that did that and continue to do it as a goddamn fool. What can a person educate you on that's literally just starting themselves? Y'all two are one of the same. So when it comes to business, you are responsible. That was one of your first major business decisions. Hiring a consultant. Most of those people that did that goofy shit hired the wrong consultants. Experience is going to be your best teacher. Out of all the content creators that I've come across in the space, there's only two that have really, really, really a lot of experience in box trucking, right? And that's me and Kirk. Everyone else pretty much started during the pandemic. I think Midwest started the year before the pandemic. He started in 2019, right? But as far as the most experience, is just us two, right? And this is where a lot of people made that mistake. When people make those mistakes, they have nobody to blame but themselves. Because even though the information may not be worth the money, they never lied because the journey is documented. If I go to an individual's page and I search box truck business and I see a list of people, right? And let's go back 2-3 years. It's 2021, 2022, when everybody was so geeked. Everybody was so geeked because they had the PPP and they wanted to get in, and they're looking at these content creators. All these creators were listing and documenting their journey. A person with common sense would not spend we had one guy charging $20,000 I got common sense. If I was coming in, then there's no way I'm gonna give a guy $10,000, $20,000 that literally I saw 2 months ago went into Ryder and picked up his first box truck, and the title of the video says, "Just started my box truck business." And you mean to tell me this guy's selling coaching for $600 and selling mentorship for $10,000? What can this guy tell me who's only been operating 2 months? Even today, 2 or 3 years in, what can the person that's been operating to listen? I think I was really, really well versed in this industry. I'm gonna tell you how many years it took me to become, I believe, really, really, really well versed in this industry. I started in 2010. I don't think it was until 2018 that I could say I was a master. So I'm gonna say 8 years, 7, 8 years. Why? Because I was still learning things in 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. Once I started cross docking, right, I started learning that. I started cross docking in 2017. So I'm still learning. I had mastered other facets of the industry, but now I'm learning how to run my own warehouse, how to receive middle mile freight into my own warehouse to run it to final mile. I'm learning uh, warehouse management, right? I'm working with warehouse management software. I'm learning reverse logistics. I never ran reverse logistics before, so there's different facets of the industry that a lot of people don't tap into, right? So it took me about 8 years to say I was a master at it. Right? So a true business person has to make sound decisions more times than they make bad decisions. If a business owner is making more bad decisions than sound decisions, they're going to fail. Because normally, when you make a bad decision, it's accompanied with a loss, a financial loss. So, this is where common sense comes into play. And a lot of people don't exercise common sense when they make these types of decisions. I'm going to use one more analogy before we move on, right? Because I haven't touched on this in a while. If I were arrested, right? And I have capital, right? Because a lot of people had capital during the pandemic. If I were arrested and I had capital and I was arrested for something I didn't do, right? And I'm sitting in jail and I got capital, right? And I'm seeking representation, right? Because I'm fighting for my freedom, right? I'm looking at two lawyers. I'm looking at this guy who has 2, 3 years of experience. So still inexperienced, right? But I'm fighting a serious case, right? I could go away for the rest of my life. So I got this lawyer who's not even a partner. This is some guy that this law firm sent. 2, 3 years of experience. Don't have a lot of cases under his belt. Nothing. And then I got the guy over here, 25, 30 years experience, a lot of wins, got a lot of the judges in the back pocket. Why? Because he plays golf with them on the weekends. He plays golf with the prosecutor. He's a mover and a shaker in the industry because he's been around for 30 years. He costs a bag. We got a bag. But if my life is on the line, I'm going to invest my money in a person who has the experience. There's no way on God's green earth, as a person with common sense, when I was looking at people spend $10,000 and $20,000 and then complain, I'm going to spend $10,000 and $20,000 for mentorship with someone that literally has a YouTube channel that says just started my box trucking business, and when you scroll down, it shows 2 months ago. You think I'm going to give that person 10 grand for a mentorship that literally just started 2 months ago and it's posted right there, and expect for them to hold my hand and walk me to success? So when I saw a lot of people do that and continue to do it, this is the speech that I give them. I have no feelings for them. I don't feel bad for them, because if you want to be a business owner comes with, and you claim you a boss. Boss in business ownership comes with a lot of big decisions, right? Your day is going to be filled and consumed with making a lot of decisions. That's what being a business owner and a boss is. All day. Right? If you come in making bad decisions, your tenure in the space isn't going to be very long, right? So only the people who have, you can't listen. You gotta be smart out here. So, let's see. D Jenkins says Mark is in line. I made 1,400 in 3 days running curbside. They were busy Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. My body is hurting like hell. Hey man, listen. That's good, man. Congratulations, man. That's a part of the job, man. Look at it. You know how we used to look at it back in the day when I was first getting started on the truck? It's a paid workout. Last thing you don't got to go to a gym. It's a paid workout, big dog. You're getting paid to work out. Look at it like that, and you won't feel so bad. Trust me. What are some of the more popular 3PLs? All right, you got T-Force. You got different 3PLs for different things. You got some that run curbside. You got some that run curbside and big and bulky. So you got T-Force. You got Pilot. You got NAL. You got JB Hunt Final Mile. You got Siva. You got let's see. You got Capstone. You have Watco. You got Fidelitone. You got, what else we got here? You got RXO, XPO. You got Cardinal. There's a bunch, right? So if you go through my channel, I pretty much have them all, and I've done profiles on them all. Profiles are from 2 years ago, so maybe some of the links have changed, maybe some of the contact people have changed, but I have a profile on pretty much every 3PL, and that way you can see what their names are, and then you can do your due diligence and go to the websites and apply yourself. Let's see. Let's see. What's going on? What's going on? How's everybody doing? Let me get back to some more of these questions. Let me see. Let's see. Let's see. Mark, I had an order for 60 sheets of drywall. I did it by myself, bro. It was a killer. Man, listen. Was it you didn't it was off you didn't have to go up no stairs, did you? It was curbside, right? Man, it's just a workout, big dog. That ain't nothing. That ain't nothing, it's just a workout, big dog. All right. 14 Easy said cross docking is where the money is at. Well, I talked about cross docking. I talked about my years of experience of cross docking. It all depends, right? I misjudged cross docking, right? I can speak about it briefly. All right. So when I was cross docking, obviously you got to have a warehouse, right? So you got to get an account that will middle mile the freight to you, and then you run it from your warehouse the final mile, right? But the 3PLs that you can get an account with to get the freight for cross docking, right? They only pay you for the delivery, and they only pay you for the reverse logistics if you got to pick up, right? So there's many things associated with cross docking, right? Their costs, right? So obviously your warehouse, right? Obviously you got to have a forklift, right, or a bobcat, right? Obviously you got to have the propane, right, for the forklift. All this stuff costs. The maintenance on the forklift, like maintaining a forklift is very expensive. I talked about it. So I would have Crown come out or Komatsu come out, a vendor, Komatsu or a Crown come out. That's $150 an hour. They start charging you the moment they leave their facility. So before they even get there, I'm already 150 in for an hour. $150 an hour when they're there, and then once they're done, they charge you an hour going back, right? And then on top of that, you got to pay for the parts, right? So you got to house that. You got to have your racking system. You got to up your security because now you may have a couple $100,000 or $1 million+ of freight in your warehouse. Another cost that's associated with cross docking is your trash, right? Because you're doing curbside, you're doing threshold room of choice, and you're also doing white glove, right? Most of the deliveries are going to be white glove for the most part, right? And with white glove comes trash removal. So you're going in there, you're doing the delivery room of choice, you're removing the packaging, you're taking that back out to the truck, and then you're doing the setup or the assembly, right? So if you got a route and 60 or 70% of it was a white glove, you got 60, 70% of plastic, styrofoam, and cardboard, right? So now my garbage bill has increased. I went from having just a 2-yard container to a 2-yard garbage container and two 10-yard recyclable containers. So I went from having one pickup a week just for trash with a 2-yarder to 2 pickups a week with a 2-yarder and two 10-yard recyclables. So my bill went up because now I got all this cardboard, all this styrofoam, all this recyclable shit. Well, not the styrofoam. The styrofoam goes in the trash, but all this cardboard that's got to get picked up twice a week because we got that much volume that's going out. Then on top of that, we doing reverse logistics. So now I'm looking at orders coming in that we might have delivered 2 or 3 weeks ago for, let's say, Wayfair. And then anybody that's ever ran Wayfair before, customer got 30 days. If they don't like it, they can send it back. I don't even know how Wayfair makes money because literally 50% of the shit we deliver for Wayfair, we end up picking that shit back up a week or two later, right? And when you go pick that shit back up, it's up to the manufacturer or the client, whoever the client is, whether it be Wayfair, whether it be Websterant, whether it be US Mattress, whoever the client is, if they want us to ship it back or not, right? If they want us to ship it back, now we got to prep it for a middle mile pickup, right? Which means we have to palletize it, which means we have to wrap it. So that's a lot more shrink wrap I got to order, right? We would keep pallets from freight that came in, and obviously I would keep cardboard to help package this shit up, but I'm buying a lot more shrink wrap. So all the costs that are associated with cross docking, you pay for out of pocket. They only pay you for the pickup and the delivery. They don't add any incentives or any extra money for those extra costs that are associated with cross docking, like the warehouse, right? The square footage. You would think that they would pay you for the amount of square footage that the freight is being housed in. They don't pay you for that. They don't pay you for the materials like the shrink wrap, the pallets. They don't pay you for all the white glove delivery as far as my trash pickup, right? They pay you on a tier-based level depending on, okay, if this is the curbside, threshold room of choice, or white glove. But to be honest with you, you know, even on that tier level, let's say for the white glove, the pay rate was just enough to profit. So if we profit, let's say $20 on the stop to the company, $15, $20 on the stop, which we're not tripping on because we're making money in volume, right? Now, from that $15 to $20, if it's a pickup, let's say, how much shrink wrap is that gonna account for? How much trash is being removed from this stop? What if it's a full bedroom, right? How much space is this going to take up in the 10-yard trash receptacle? How do we determine what the cost of that is? You see what I'm saying? And then another thing you have to understand that when you're cross docking, is that you don't get paid like you get paid when you are a independent owner operator. You feel what I'm saying? They don't pay you every week like that when you're a final mile big and bulky as an independent contractor. They look at you like this, dude. You got a fucking warehouse. You a big dog. We don't look at you like we look at the independent guy with his one truck. For you to have a fleet of trucks, a warehouse, a forklift, Bobcat, all this shit, you're somebody that knows what the hell they're doing. For you to get to this point, you're somebody. So guess what? You gotta wait for your money like we wait for our money. We're gonna pay you when each contract that you deliver pays us. In 30 days, we'll pay you. So none of my settlements, when they did start rolling in, were consistent. And when I say consistent, not meaning that we didn't get a settlement every week. We got a settlement every week, but you have a settlement that one week it'd be $700. The next week it might be $5,000. The next week it might be $3,500. The next week it may be $600. The next week it may be $2,200. The next week it may be $1,800. The next week it may be $4,400. Right? Because those payments were itemized payments for, let's say, a particular week, maybe for deliveries. Let's say one of those payments that, let's say, we got paid for this week, one of those stops may be for a delivery that was done 5-6 months ago. It may take them 90 days to get the money, right? And then after they get the money, it's a 30-day turnaround once it goes through their accounts receivable over the accounts payable to pay to us. So that's another 30 days. So then another order that we might have been from 60 days ago or 30 days ago. So this is why there was no consistency as far as the pay, because they look at us like, yo, you got to have some type of capital to get to where you at, so you can wait for your money, right? So I said this like before, when we stopped cross docking, we stopped cross docking in March, right? I got a settlement all the way to October. So without cross docking, once we ended that contract with cross docking, we still got paid for like another 8 months every single week. This how far behind the payments were, because they were coming in as they were getting paid for certain pickups and stops, then we would get paid. And I ran into a rough patch at one point because of that too. But thank God for the moving company was able to bail me out, and then we recouped that money the following year, because a lot of that money started rolling in. But you would have, points of the year where your deliveries were heavy or your pickups were heavy, and if I had a week or 2 weeks that were heavy, those week or two that were heavy, the costs that are associated with, heavy weeks, I might have got a settlement. That might have been one of them weeks where the settlement was only $700. So the amount of money it cost me to run for fuel and payroll for the prior week going into the payroll week, the settlement that I got for that account that particular week of payroll didn't equate to what I had to pay out just in even payroll alone. My payroll to, let's say, run that account maybe for a week or let's say 2 weeks might have been $3,000 or $4,000, and then I getting a settlement for $700, right? So there's a lot of things that are associated with that I don't think a lot of people think of. I mean, there's not a lot of opportunity for cross dock anyway, because a lot of people don't cross dock. But if you do have a warehouse, there are companies out there that'll middleman you the freight. You just need to make sure that you have, the cash flow to be able to maintain. Someone, when I did that live stream, I talked about it, they said, well, man, You could just factor. And see, this is where the education comes in. You can't factor that. There's no invoice. I'm like my own 3PL. So it's not like you're running let's say an Amazon DSP and they got you on the net 45, but they're invoicing you every week, and then you can sell that invoice to the factoring company, and then the factoring company will pay you on 3.5 points on the dollar, and they'll wait for their money. No, it doesn't work like that. I'm logging into software, I'm logging into a WMS. I'm seeing all the inbound freight that's coming into my warehouse. I see all the freight that we need to pick up to do reverse logistics, and I see all the freight that we have in our warehouse, the location of it that it needs to go out and be delivered. And as we get freight in, we update it. As we deliver freight, we update it. As we pick freight up and request a BOL for preparation to do reverse logistics, we send out. There's no, because it's a bunch of different freight. It's not like how you're running now. Okay, here goes the orders we did this week. All right, Amazon gives you an invoice. You sell the invoice. It doesn't work like that. You your own 3PL. I'm invoicing if I'm outsourcing outside of my company, my company owned trucks to run this freight. If I say, yo, we got enough volume, listen, we're gonna start hiring some independent contractors, and then they can come to my warehouse and they box truck. They don't work for me directly, but I'm getting some ICs to come run for me. Then I would invoice them, right? And if they want to take the invoice and sell it to a factory company, they could. But if I were to do that, I would just uh, pay them 7 days a week. I wouldn't net 45. I'm gonna net 30. All right, so uh, let me see. Shout out to everybody that came in. We got 150 people watching on YouTube. All right, so Frank, I think I just answered the cross docking for you. Well, what Paul Smith got you already though. Thank you, Paul, for helping him out. Appreciate that. You on point with that white glove, Mark. I work for Forward Air. Forward Air is another one. A warehouse manager, and we had a 53-foot trailer for trash, and that needed to be changed every 2 weeks, right? So if y'all was changing a 53, even though that facility is a lot bigger than mine, 2 weeks, shit, 10 yards, man, and shit was filling up quick, man. Shit used to piss me off, So, and I was using Republic Services, and Republic Services isn't cheap. They're cheaper than Waste Management, but Republic Services isn't cheap. And man, they would charge me if the thing was over. If the driver came and he couldn't close the lid, he would take pictures, and then I would get my statement, and I would be charged an extra $40 for overflow, and that shit was just. So if you were to ask me, Mark, would you ever do cross docking again? The answer would be absolutely no. Absolutely no. Would I change it? No. It was an experience, right? And it allows me to be able to talk about it fluently today. It's just a notch under my belt, right? It was something that we did. I'm glad I did it. Would I do it again? Absolutely not. But it's just, that gave me the opportunity to learn that lane of trucking. I can actually say, man, I had my own warehouse and I had freight coming into my warehouse. I became my own 3PL. It's a good notch under my belt. I could list it on my in my portfolio resume, and I can talk about it fluently with you guys today. You know what I'm saying? So I would, if I wouldn't take it away, but I wouldn't do it again. Absolutely not. Absolutely. Like Paul is saying, the big companies it works well for, but for a smaller company, no, because that's why a company that I was getting the freight through nonstop delivery, this is why they did it that way. They never touched the freight. They got the contracts. They would fly salespeople out to land the contracts. The shit would come from the distributor, the manufacturer, straight to a middleman straight to me, right? They didn't have to deal with the cost associated with housing and delivering the freight. See, you got to factor in the cost of the delivery as well. But see, we didn't get paid for all the costs associated with housing, prepping, moving the shit around the warehouse. Like, yo, I'm not using pallet jacks, using pallet jacks. But when the truck came, y'all seen my warehouse. I've showed my warehouse. So I didn't have a dock where you back into. I had a bay, two bay doors where the semi truck backs up to, and I got to take this shit off with a forklift, right? So even the forklift, the cost associated with working that forklift, like that's a lot of money. The trash, guess what? Y'all see me out there. I have to plow the snow so that the trucks can get in and out, right? So the propane for like, yo, it's a lot of money associated with running a warehouse. And if you're not getting compensated for the cost of the operation of the facility and what goes along with it outside the compensation for doing the deliveries and the pickups, to me, then it's not worth it. This is why you see companies. This is why understanding the industry is very, very important if you want to come into the business. And this is for like some of you younger guys, you probably don't know or remember this. This is why a lot of big box retailers got away from owning and operating their own trucks. Believe it or not, to some of you young guys, big box retailers 20, 25 years ago ran their own trucks. In the mid to late 90s, you started to see big box retailers, and a lot of these big box retailers aren't here anymore, right? Montgomery Ward, shit like that, had their own trucks. Montgomery Ward has his own trucks back in the day, right? The cost associated with owning and operating the trucks, the liability associated with it wasn't worth it. Once they realized, yo, we can have a middleman do this and we can focus more on sales, we can cut this cost. A lot of other companies start following suit, and that's why I'm trying to think. No big box retailer now handles their own delivery. They all outsource. Even Amazon. Amazon brands it when you see those deliveries come to your home in those Rivian vans, right? It looks like it's Amazon, but it's not Amazon. Amazon leases the vehicles to a third party contractor and holds them liable for anything and everything that goes on, and 100% indemnifies themselves from any and all liability. They focus more on sales, and they give them a percentage or a pay to handle the deliveries, but the liability is stuck with the contractor. And there you have it. I used to have a hustle on weekends with the terminal manager, loaded up 53 footer with pallets and selling them joints, making 8 to 1,200 trailers, splitting the bread. That's what's up. Kelvin said he on a box truck. Yo, that cross-dock, I used to research it. Yeah, that's cross-dock. When I used to research it, it definitely needed to be playing with hundreds of thousands to millions. I just pay attention to it as a driver and see so much potential. That's all. And that's what I'm telling you from experience. You can get it, and you're right. Depending on the level, you know what I'm saying? Definitely was hundreds of thousands for me. But I wasn't compensated for uh, uh, the cost associated with warehousing and everything that came along with the warehousing, um, and the reverse logistics and the materials and all that shit. They only compensated us for the delivery and the pickups. That's it. Hey Mark, sorry I'm late. Is bulk mail delivery still good for cargo van delivery? Is it good money? Well, you're gonna have to operate in volume. So good money is all depends on the individual. You know what I'm saying? Depending on what it costs you to operate your vehicle would determine whatever is being offered, is it good money or not, right? That would be the main thing to help you determine what's good and what's not good. But smaller parcel has always been on the lower pay scale, and the way you can make decent money with it is by operating in volume. So it may not be beneficial depending on the mindset or the level of entrepreneurship for a certain type of individual to operate with one vehicle. They might want to run a fleet, but to maybe somebody who's just getting started, it may be beneficial depending on, you know, what their operational costs are. Obviously, the lower, the better for something like that. Um, Israel, what's going on? I ain't seen you in a minute. Cargo van got me grossing $400 to $500 a day starting February. Congratulations. You said all thanks to me, man. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you for watching the channel and listening to me and listening to my strategies, man. It's just like what I was telling somebody earlier. When you tap in with experience is going to tell you not only what to do, how to do it, but how to win at it, right? Because experience has done it. Even when me sitting up here talking about cross docking, I can tell you about everything about cross docking down to the fact that if I got presented it again, I wouldn't do it, right? This is why it's good to tap in with people who have experience, because we already paid, already spent the money to tell you in some aspects it's not worth it. You know what I'm saying? I learned that, there's a lot more cost associated with just the pickup and the delivery. Right? So that's why I can come in and tell people how to start, scale, and ultimately sell the business and how to win. It's why I don't have the backlash like the buddy came in here earlier complaining about somebody else, right? Because I've been doing this since 2010, right? So I appreciate you for listening, man. $400 to $500 is great money in a cargo van. Great money. So, man, I appreciate you for listening. I appreciate you for coming back, sharing that with me, man. Thank you. So reverse logistics is just, it just sounds fancy. Reverse logistics is just the opposite of dropping off, you picking up. So boom, we get an order for, let's say, a warehouse sofa that comes in. We deliver it to John Doe today, Tuesday, right? With Wayfair, you got 30 days. If you don't like it, you can return it, right? They ordered it online. They don't like it. They call or contact Wayfair. Hey, I don't like this shit. And Wayfair says, okay, no problem. We're going to place an order for a truck to come pick it back up. It goes through the proper channels. It pops up on my WMS. I see it. I schedule it. Truck goes, picks it up. We bring it back to our warehouse. We put it on the pallet. We wrap it up. We go back into the office. We put a request in for a BOL for a middle mile carrier to come pick it up a few days later or a week later, because reverse logistics seems like it always took a while. They come pick it up. And that's all reverse logistics is. It's just picking up something that was dropped off to a customer that didn't want it and they got a chance to return it. So, and then, sometimes when we would pick stuff up, the client, whoever the retailer was, might have not wanted it. Now, some things they feel like, well, the cost of shipping it back ain't worth what the cost of the item is for us to sell it open box, or for us to even get it back here to determine if it's sellable for open box, right? They'll just be like, discard it. So obviously I'm not discarding nothing that's still spanking brand new that can either be sold, or I can give it away to one of my employees or sell to one of my employees for very low. So yeah, we would tell them, okay, we're going to discard it. They would want you to like rip it up, or if it was, let's say it was a sofa, take a knife to it and then dispose of it. And see, even there, why would I dispose of it? Because now I can't put it in the 2-yard for the trash. I can't put it in the 10-yard, one of the 10-yard recyclable containers. Now I got to call bulk pickup, which they're going to charge me for. They're not paying me for that. Right? So it's better for me to take the shit that they say discard of and just sell it. So that's what I would do. I got lucky with a company that we ran a contract through CrossDock called Human Touch. Right, they sell some very expensive massage chairs. They like the massage chairs that recline like 180 degrees, and you get the massage while you're 180 degrees, and you can sit it upright. This place here right outside Chicago called Apt would order them all the time, and we would deliver them to them because they were a vendor for Human Touch. One time they ordered like fit. We got to order 50 in, and I actually went to drop that off because I had a call off. So I left the office, went to drop that off. They would take it off the truck with a forklift. So when I got there, it was like, well, we only placed the order for I think it was like 42. So they refused 8. Now these massage chairs are like $5,000-$6,000 a piece, right? So those 8 massage chairs sat in my warehouse for over a year, right? I'm constantly putting a request in to have them shipped back. After a year, they become mine. So if something sat in my warehouse for a year, then it became mine. Listen, they never sent me back, and I'm requesting because it's taking up space. I'm trying to get rid of this shit. I want this shit out of here, bro. The longer this shit sits, the worse it is, right? So they never sent me BOLs for it. I would contact nonstop my rep, like, what's going on with these Human Touch chairs? Man, I'm waiting for the rep. I'm waiting for them to send me. As soon as we get one, we'll forward it to you. As soon as we get it forwarded to you, they just abandoned them. So after a year, I had 8, $5,000 to $6,000. They were different model Human Touch massage chairs. So I gave my mama one, and I sold the rest. I didn't even bring one here to my crib. I didn't want one because I kept one for the office actually, and then the one that I kept for the office, I eventually ended up selling that. But yeah, so yeah, there was perks that did come along with CrossDock, and I would have a lot of overflow of stuff that the retailer would say just dispose of. We're not gonna pay $500 or $600, whatever the cost was, because it was based on obviously weight and shit like that, to ship it back halfway cross country for them to dispose of it there, or see if it was with Wayfair able to be sold off their website open box. So that was one of the perks that came along with it. I would have a bunch of nice furniture that I could either give away or sell. So hey Mark, what price would be good for a box truck for 4 stops over 200 miles and a dedicated route? 4 stops over 200 miles, so it's 200 miles back. 200 miles. I would say a minimum $100 a stop, depending on what the scope of the stop is. When I say scope of the stop, is it a curbside? Is it a threshold? Threshold, room of choice, white glove. Is this a curbside or is this a one man? That's something I would definitely do um, a guarantee on it per stop, right? Rand White says, just found you and subscribe. Buying a van soon. Welcome to the channel. Appreciate you for joining. Make sure you turn your post notifications on to all so you get the notifications when I go live. What I think about getting a box truck from the auction, take a mechanic with you. I'm not a fan of the online auctions, right? But if you can go to an auction, physically go to an auction, and you're not mechanically inclined to, diagnose and take a look at the truck yourself, hire a diesel mechanic for the day to go with you. I'm not a fan of an online auction, though, I can tell you that. Majority of the trucks that I purchased in my fleet came from the budget auction, right? And I would purchase them from a truck dealer here right outside Chicago, about an hour, 45 minutes in a suburb outside Chicago. I was fine paying the upcharge, right, from his lot instead of going to the budget auction. Why? Because he's a truck dealer and he would go there. He would bring them back to his lot. His mechanics would, fix them up. They would do cosmetic, touch ups and shit like that, and I pay whatever the 15-20% markup is, right? And I considered that the cost of taking a mechanic myself and then taking the shit to a mechanic to have it diagnosed and fixing whatever, right? But if you're gonna actually go to the auction directly yourself, make sure you take a mechanic with you. If you're not mechanically inclined yourself, to diagnose it. Shout out to you, Frank. Big Herm said the same thing before I even saw his thing. Yeah, take a mechanic with you. You can hire a mechanic for the day. All right, couple $100, man. It's worth it. It's worth it. You said, where do you find big and bulky loads? 3PLs. I named a bunch earlier. XPO, RXO, NAL, JB Hunt Final Mile, UST, SIVA, Fidelitone. The list goes on. Pilot. The list goes on. Doreen said, ooh, zero gravity. Yeah, that's exactly what it was called. The one I gave my OG a zero gravity one. She loves it. She loves it. She loves that thing. You know what I'm saying? That was, that was one of the perks, you know what I'm saying, that cross docking. You ran across some good shit. But yeah, that zero gravity human touch, she loves that thing. I love the one I had in the office too. Really, really, really good. The with the zero gravity you set in it. It got the thing you put your feet in, so you hit the button, it tilts you all the way back. So you getting that massage, zero gravity. It's massaging the bottom of your feet, your ankles, your shins, your neck, everything, man. So yeah, that was. I ended up selling the overflow I had. I ended up selling them to some of my employees and some friends. I just gave each one away for $500 a piece. So even the people who purchased them from me, they caught a blessing. I won, $500 a piece for $5,000-$6,000 massage chairs. I just blessed some family and some friends and some employees. So, and a lot of people wanted them. They was fighting over them things when I said, man, just give me 500. Yeah. So yeah, man. Is a 3PL the equivalent of a load board for general freight? Nope. 3PL is a logistics company. Load board is a spot market coming from a shipper. Rich you said again, Mark is on point with the reverse logistics. The Forward Air carry our work for was partnered with Costco, and they send mattresses and fridges back regularly because they don't like them. Yeah, I don't. Listen, I used to get a lot of mattresses back, and some of the pictures I showed on the even the live stream yesterday, the montage live stream, you could see mattresses in the back, and those were I actually showed how we would have to, because once you take a mattress out the mattress box, or like let's say those mattresses that come in one of those boxes that's like it's pressed, and then when you open the box, the mattress pops out and then it inflates and shit like that. Like those mattresses, like once in it, like you got to put that on a pallet if they want it back. So like you got to fold it over, wrap it with tape to hold it down, and then strap it to a pallet. Like it's ridiculous, man, shipping mattresses back. So what I ended up doing is the mattresses that they didn't want back, I ended up finding a place here in Chicago that refurbished mattresses, right? And they refurbished and sold them. So what they did was they took the springs out and then they put new whatever that shit is, the actual fabric around them, and then they sold them. So like a lot of those like those local furniture stores, like them Arab local furniture stores, like 5-star furniture, some shit that you would see in the hood, you know what I'm saying, in some of your major cities. That's why those mattresses are. You can go in there and get a twin size mattress and box spring for $99, or you can get a king mattress for $200, right? And the hardest thing to like do reverse logistics and ship back was the king mattresses. You had to find a big enough pallet. You have to have two guys fold it over and sit on it and hold it together while somebody went around it with tape to hold it together. Put tape at the top, tape at the bottom, tape at the middle. Then you got to go around it with shrink wrap. Then you got to lay it on the pallet. You got to make sure you got a long pallet, or you got to make a pallet by putting like two pallets together. And then you got to shrink wrap it to the pallet. Man, that's a lot of shrink wrap. It's a lot of tape. And the cross docking contract don't pay for none of that shit. So if we get paid, let's say $65 or $55 or $75, what it is, for the pickup, which it really wasn't even that. We might get paid $55 or $65 for a pickup. Once the cost of the stop, right, for fuel and all your fixed and variable costs, which to me never was high because my fleet is 100% owned, right? It's more so just the fuel, right, and the labor costs, right? And then we got to make something. We would average about anywhere, depending on what the scope of the stop was, via if it was curb, side, threshold, room of choice, or white glove, anywhere from 10 to maybe $30 on the high end of stop what the company would make, right? And some people are like, man, your company only making $10 to $30 a stop. That's low. But you got to remember, I'm running a fleet of trucks, so we're operating in volume. So we're still making money, right? I had trucks that was making $100 a day, but I had one route where I was running 9 trucks for. Each truck is netting $100 a day. That's $900. So when you're making the money in volume, then it's fine. But if it's a stop that we're only making $10 on, or $15-$20 on the company, and then we come back and we got to palletize it, we got to throw trash away from that stop, and we got to use a bunch of shrink wrap. Now that $10 to $15, how much is left now? Maybe 5 or 6 or 4. You see what I'm saying? So there's a lot associated with it. You know what I'm saying? We can get into the upgrade in the security system. We can get into the pit bulls now, right? Because remember, my warehouse is not in an industrial community. I was in a warehouse in the inner city community, right? So now we got pit bulls. These pit bulls got to get fed. Just the camera system is one thing, but what about the pit bulls? You talking about the 50-pound bags of damn dog food. What about the veterinarian bills? Each time I go to the veterinarian, it's $500, $600, $700. So, like, and I just thought about the damn dogs. You see what I'm saying? So, and this other, costs that are associated that probably come to mind, and then I'll, talk about too. So, like, it's a lot of costs associated with cross docking, and you don't get paid for it. So our margins for cross docking are very, 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 very small. Hey, Marie, shout out to Marie. Yours, appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah. Paul Smith said that's a sale. Listen, everybody that got one for $500, they were very, very appreciative. Joey Gardner says, just stumbled upon you and subscribe, looking to get into the cargo van business and my LLC. All right, subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification to all so you can get the notifications when I go live. Plenty of content, plenty of people in here to help you. If I don't see your question, we got a lot of cool people. We got a real dope community over here on the channel. So if I don't see you, it's other people in the chat that would be willing to help you before I even get to you. So you're in a safe space when it comes to trucking over here, and we appreciate we appreciate you being over here. We're happy to have you. My distributor had a technical issue for 3PLs, so a 2-hour delay set me back 5 hours. It happens. And pit bulls and Rottweilers are vicious dogs, Mark. They just a deterrent, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. My biggest fear with the pit bulls would, if somebody really wanted to come in, they would just kill the dogs. You gotta remember, I'm in Chicago. So you talking about, y'all seen my warehouse, y'all seen the land. So what y'all don't know is there's a railroad that runs behind it, right? A lot of the times, because I never had a break into the warehouse, but I had some break-ins with some of my 16 footers on a couple of occasions where some guys came in and stole the catalytic converters, right? And I don't know if I've ever told these stories, but I've had some catalytic converters stole a couple times. Never no theft to the warehouse, never no theft to um, the office, the operations office, the mobile office, but they would come in the yard. A couple times stole some catalytic converters. One time they came and stole some catalytic converters, and two of the trucks, when the drivers returned at the end of the day and put the key in the drop box, they didn't lock the door. So those trucks that the doors were open, they popped the hood and stole the batteries. So no 26 footers ever had any issues. Whatever trucks, obviously because the Cali converters, they were targeting those 16 footers. So those are the only issues that I ever had. But I always, in my head, I'm like, damn, if somebody wanted, they're gonna just kill them dogs. You see what I'm saying? But I would always look at the cameras, even, in the middle of the night, I would wake up, right? Because I got the shit on my phone so I can look at all the cameras and the office trailer, throughout the warehouse. The cameras facing east, west, north, south, everywhere. So Rob, who was my employee that came on some months ago, he handled all the cameras. Shout out to Rob if you're watching. Great job on the setup of the camera system. Uh, but yeah, that was my biggest fear. The dogs were more of a deterrent. But in the market I'm in, if they wanted to come in, them dogs would have been good as gone. I'm a realist. I already knew it. You know what I'm saying? And guess what? Guess what? Because the land's so big and because of where we live at, just because you hear gunshots, they would have just heard gunshots. Nobody would have called the police because hearing gunshots is a regular thing here. It's not like middle America, you hear gunshot, the whole neighborhood that heard the shots is calling the police. That shit wouldn't have been about nothing. Them dogs, we'd have seen them dogs laid out at 5 in the morning when we got to the yard, man. So Robert White said, if you feed the dogs raw meat unfrozen, they won't need that vet bill. Feed them raw meat. Dolphin shit's right there. That's big here, still in California. Definitely. Oh, so check this out. Since we're on Cali conversion, let me further get an example. So, and this is in the news. You can look this up. This literally happened yesterday or the day before here in Chicago. Dolphins was trying to steal some catalytic converters at St. Ignatius Church, right on Roosevelt. The priest heard him, right? Because he probably heard the saw, right, underneath the electric saw. He came out like, hey, what are y'all doing down there? They shot at the priest. The priest was on the steps of the church yelling out to the parking lot, yo, what are y'all doing over there? They shot 3 shots at the priest. You got a bullet hole in the door. I think a piece of wood jumped out and cut his face. He didn't get hit. He just got caught by a piece of wood that came, I guess, off the door or something, scratched him in the face. And they shot at the priest. They still in Cali converters at the church, shot at the priest. And this is in the news. You could literally look this up here in Chicago. So that's what I'm saying. If they wanted to come get them dogs, they would have to get whatever it was, they would have killed the dogs. A lot of times, we didn't leave the dogs out overnight. We would leave the dogs in the warehouse. We didn't let the dogs really roam the yard, for the most part, right? We would leave them inside the warehouse with the that if it ever got to that, by the grace of God, and I really, man, I never had a theft issue, right? By the grace of God, we never had nobody break in, but with it being dark, because we would keep the lights off at night, that, if somebody did come in, they would get a surprise by one of the dogs, and by that time it would be too late. So Jordan said they shot up Citadel multiple times. We had all that, Kevin. We had all that. Hey, listen, wired fence ain't stopping no dope fiends. Who you think stealing catalytic converters? It ain't regular people. It's dope fiends, right? Because it got that is it copper or platinum or something in it? It got in there. I don't know, something. It's some type of mineral that's in those catalytic converters that they want them that bad. some type of platinum or it's copper. I don't know what it is. I'm not a mechanically inclined mechanic, and I ain't no dope fiend to know what they stealing for and what's in there. There's something in there. It's a mineral in there. Is why they doing it. But yeah, ain't no barbed wire stopping no dope fiend. Dope fiend coming. They gonna put a towel or a blanket or something over the barbed wire and they going over. Straight up. They ain't stopping them. They gonna cut a hole in the wall. I had a buddy that owned a clothing store. I talked about him on the channel, Jamal. Man, they came in his store. They cut a hole through the brick wall right where the safe was at. So clearly was somebody that obviously had worked there before. So they came in through the back. They cut a hole through the brick. So they had time. They cut a hole through the brick, right next to the safe, unbolted the safe, pushed the safe through the hole. He came in the store in the morning, so the alarm never got tripped. So they didn't come through the door, and they knew it wasn't a motion detector in that little bitty room where the safe was at. So they cut a hole from the outside through the brick, unbolted the safe, took the safe out, and was gone. The other time they broke into the store, they came through the roof. You know how they break into stores now in Chicago? They carjack somebody with a truck or SUV. They carjack somebody else's, the getaway car. So now they got the truck, right? And the getaway car. They find a store. They back into the front of the store. They drive straight through the front, crashing the whole front facade. Everybody runs in. They grab a bunch of shit. They run out and hop in the getaway car. They leave the stolen truck in the fucking middle of the store showroom. So crime has evolved. If a person want it, they gonna get it. These shorties ain't dope fiends. They just doing that shit because they can get away with it and sell the shit on Facebook Marketplace or offer up. The dope fiends is the ones that you see out here stealing catalytic converters and doing all this other goofy shit. You know what I'm saying? So ain't no barbed wire stopping nobody today. If they want it, they gonna get it. They just gonna cut through the fence. They cutting through bricks. They gonna cut through the fence. Kevin, you know that, man. You from Chicago. They doing the same shit out in LA. They doing the same shit in New York. They doing the same shit in Atlanta. This is just what it is. You know, and it was a lot of nights where I spent damn near half the night at the yard. You see what I'm saying? And I always prayed, because my whole thing is, yo, I hope this ain't the night when I'm here working late that a motherfucker don't try it, right? Because the last thing I want to do is have to do something to somebody, you know, to protect property, because now that's going to be held up depending on who the state prosecutor is. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a gray line there, you know, protecting, you know, you can protect your person and you can protect business, right? But, you know, if you protecting business, there's no threat to life, you know, associated with what's going on at that time. It's a slippery slope. It's a gray area there, and that's it's just, your freedom is held in the hands of whoever the state prosecutor would be, right? Because I already knew how I was going to end up, you know, as far as my thought process. I would have no other choice. Like if I'm coming out and I hear something, yo, who is that over there? It's like already out ready to go, and any sudden movements, I'm letting it go, right? Because I understand, yo, it's either K or BK. You dig what I'm saying? So, and I understand the environment that, you know, we live in and we come from, right? Being in this marketplace, right? So I always said if something was to happen, I just preferred that it wouldn't be when I was there, because the last thing I want to have to do is hurt somebody over something that can be replaced, but I would have no other option but to do it in regards anyway. So same here in Baltimore, chain ATMs up to the back of the truck. Yeah, I seen that. They back into the store, throw a chain around and rip it out the floor. Yeah, I seen that. I seen that. Arkansas a good place for a box truck? It depends. You gotta do a market analysis. Are you in Little Rock or another major town? That would all depend. You know, there's a lot of rural areas in Arkansas, so it all depends on if you're doing local. If you going OTR, then it don't matter where you from. But if you talking about going semi, then you must be talking about going over to OTR. If you going OTR, it don't matter where you live at, where you coming from. What's the best box truck to drive? Well, it all depends. That's personal preference. I like the American ones. I don't like international Freightliner. I like the GMC and the Chevys also, the C series. So, all right. All right. Hope everybody got some type of education as far as that little short hit of quitter as far as cargo van, a box truck business, and this new series of quick hit quitter, box truck 1-on-1 crash course, 1 hour, 2 hour or less content. My bad. This Peterbilt is a manufacturer for the actual truck. Most manufacturers that build the trucks, they outsource the box building to other companies like Morgan, right? So I don't necessarily know if Peterbilt actually builds boxes. They build the manufacture of the actual vehicle and the chassis, and 9 times out of 10 they probably outsource the box to be built by somebody like Morgan. Wayne says, "Can I sleep in a box legally?" Now this question is up for debate. I'm gonna tell you my answer from what I read from the official FMCSA, right? And there's other content creators say, "Oh, I talked to a DOT officer, blah blah blah," right? But then this is where common sense comes in. I know what I read, and then I have common sense, right? The answer is legally no. Now, do people do it? Yes, but legally the answer is no, right? If the vehicle doesn't have a sleeper berth, you have to go to a hotel room, because if you run across a DOT officer or state trooper and they look at your logs and they ask you where you slept, then you have to be able to produce a motel or a hotel receipt. This wouldn't be written in verbiage if you could sleep in your box truck. Having to produce a motel hotel receipt if you don't have a sleeper berth, if you could sleep in your box truck, this wouldn't be written into the verbiage. It says it clearly there that if you don't have a sleeper, you can't sleep in the truck. How can a person who's driving for a living 10, 11 hours out the day get adequate rest on a bench or on the floor? Think about it. So when I hear other content, and this is where a lot of people get misinformed, and this is why I tell people always use your common sense. Person who's driving for a living 10 hours, 11 hours a day, don't you think they deserve some type of adequate rest? Can a person get a correct, and when I say correct, rest on a bench or on the floor? Absolutely, positively not. So, people do it. Is it legal? No. Can you get in trouble for it? Yes. To each his own. But legally, no, you have to have a sleeper berth. You have to have a sleeper berth. I got a question mark. It's a lot of retail stores closing because of theft. We got grocery stores here closing locations because of high theft. You think trucking will take a hit? Nope. The dynamic of it may shift a little bit depending on the market. It may shift from where those food deserts are going to be. There's just going to be less deliveries to those particular zip codes or to those particular markets, right? So the more stores close, obviously, the less freight. That's pretty much about it. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, the more stores that will be opening, the more opportunities for deliveries right? But if stores are closing, that's just less opportunities. It's not going to affect the dynamic of, well, man, this lane isn't going to exist anymore, if it's what you're asking. No, it just means, if this store was closed and then this store received X amount of deliveries in a particular week, then that's less opportunities for people to make money, uh, let's say from that particular market, that particular store. That's all. It's just less opportunities. Um, uh, the stores that are closing, like the Targets, like we've had Targets close here. Uh, a lot of it because internal theft. Uh, it's unfortunate, but what I see happening in those markets here, where you got stores like Target closing, you see the mom and pop Arab grocery stores pop up. Now, those stores don't get semi truck deliveries. You see Mahmoud or Jamal, they'll go to Costco or Sam's Club and they'll buy their shit in their minivan, and you see them unloading their minivan, right? So with them building the mom and pop stores doesn't bring that freight opportunity back to that area, right? So it just loses, that's opportunity lost for those particular areas, which could, if it continues to go on, which could make the competition, more competition in the market because there's less opportunity. But on the grand scheme of things, their stores closing, but they're not closing in a magnitude where it's just gonna be a food desert out here. Nah, you already know the communities they're closing in, and you already know why they're closing. So I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get into that tonight. But thanks, Mr. Moore. I think I would test the cargo van OTR to get some cash flow and get back to my boss. All right, sounds like a plan. I'm buying a Durastar, unfortunately, LOL, but I found one for 5K, 174,000 miles. Having an oil analysis done to see if anything is mixing. 5K ain't bad. If everything going good with it, then you might find you a winner. In Arizona, if you got something local, hold on and expand. Y'all hear that? If you in Arizona, whoever had that Arizona question, there go your answer. So I was telling Buddy early, we help each other out on this channel. It's a community over here. So by the time I even read it, somebody already got an answer. So people in here from all over the country that'll give you the gems for your market. Sleeps. They actually have some people that does sleep in the cabin. Yeah, they got people that sleep. Listen, do what you want to do. Just understand, just like anything, life is about choices and decisions. If that's a sacrifice that you're gonna make that sacrifice until you get caught. If you get caught. Some people never get caught. Just understand that the consequences that are associated with that, if you do get caught, understand what comes with it. I'm not here to tell a person what to do. I'm just here to answer the questions, right? Legally, no, you can't do it. But I'm not going to tell a person don't do it. That's up to you. Life is about choices and decisions. Just understand the repercussions behind the decisions that you make. If I was running OTR, I can't tell you if I would do it. Have I slept in a box truck before? Yes, absolutely. Was it done purposely? Absolutely not. Why did I sleep in a box truck? I was doing a long distance move from Portland back to Chicago. This is a customer from my moving company that we moved. It was a corporate move from Chicago to Portland, right? And after she's did what she needed to do in Portland, her company moved her back. I wasn't finna send a truck out there to move her back, right? So what I did was we outsourced. I hired a company out there to load her up in a one-way Penske truck, and it was busy summertime. I ended up flying out there. I ended up leaving the office, flying out there, overseeing the company that I hired to load the truck up. I loaded up her Jeep on the trailer, and I drove the truck back. Um, I wasn't able to get a room, um, for whatever reason. I wasn't able to get a room. I wasn't even able in some markets to find. I remember one night, that Saturday night, Friday night, I was driving. I couldn't even find a place to pull in at a truck stop. Every truck stop plaza was full all the way down to the shoulder. Every rest area was full all the way onto the shoulder going onto the highway. The rooms were booked. I couldn't even get a room because I didn't even book nothing ahead because I didn't know, you know, where I was going to stop. It was kind of a last minute corporate move and it was just a mess. I had to sleep on the truck then. I had another situation a long time ago where I had to sleep in a truck in Arizona because I don't know if they just wouldn't give me a room. The no vacancy sign wasn't lit, but the dude swore there weren't no vacancies. And I went to two places, no vacancy signs weren't lit. They wouldn't give me a room. I was in Arizona, and I said, skip this, bro. I just crashed. Me personally, I'm not sleeping in no truck if I don't have to. The two times that I did it, it was situations where I didn't have no other choice, right? And I was, man, I was starting to see shit in the middle of the road. I'm seeing dogs and shit that weren't there. It was one of them situations where I'm seeing shit that ain't there. I'm delusional at this point. So I'm like, yo, I gotta pull over. I gotta stop. I can't make it. You know what I'm saying? There ain't nobody giving me no room. I'm finna sleep in this truck. I went and I had no when I come from port, I had no plans to sleep in the truck, right? So I went in the truck stop. I bought those shades. You know they was high as hell in there. I put one in the window, one on each side, locked them doors, and I took my goofy ass to sleep. So, so you know, it is what it is. But if things would have went my way, I would have definitely not did it. What up, Big Zo? Where you been at, big dog? Where you been at? Where you been at? Uh, y'all had a Walmart close because of elders accident litigation. All right, 14, easy, peace, 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 peace. Y'all saying Walmart losing a lot of money? You need cargo insurance if you hauling freight, definitely. General liability is not going to cover the cargo. The commercial auto ain't going to cover the cargo. You need cargo liability for freight to cover the cargo. They have cargo has its own insurance. It's called cargo insurance. So I know a company you're talking about. They actually DM me to advertise on my channel, and I declined it. I know exactly what company they like outside. They like in the middle of the state or something outside. They're not in Chicago. They out out in the outskirts somewhere. But yeah, they hit me up. Ooh, maybe about early this year, maybe January, February, to do some advertising, and I turned them down. Thought about furniture when 26 for box truck in the future, but like you stated, it might be hard to keep talent because of the competition. Um, in big and bulky, the competition isn't the case as far as keeping people. In big and bulky, the retention is low because of you know the labor. It's labor intensive. A lot of people ain't cut to do it, so it ain't competition in that realm. It's the actual labor itself. You gotta find somebody that's willing to do that type of work day in and day out. All right. Been hustling crazy, doing moving and landscaping now. Look for another contract for the trucking company still. You ain't with Waco or whoever you was doing staples with no more, right? I know moving picking up for you. You said you're not a fan of the idea of box truck. See, if you buy a box truck with a sleeper, all the better. If you put a box truck, a sleeper in your box truck, then fine too. But one, you gotta understand that when you put that sleeper in there, you're gonna lose about 4 feet of space. So now that 26 footer is gonna become a 22 footer. So you need to understand that. Now I know it's a company I saw that builds a sleeper on top of um the cab, but I don't I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Now the traditional sleepers I see that are built in, the ones that are built in, not the ones that you buy the cab, the box truck with the cab already built. in there from the manufacturer. That's different. But these aftermarket ones, they building it into like the box, and they'll let you know like, yo, you're gonna lose 4 feet. So if I was to do a box truck with the sleeper, I would do the sleeper built in the actual cab from the manufacturer. I actually got a subscriber that has one like that. So and then yours, like I never ran OTR. My claim to fame is moving in final mile. So, the OTR, that's not how I operated. Uh so I'm not really like a fan or like dislike or not like. That's why I can just give it to you straightforward with no chaser, no like, my, because I'm not, I never operated OTR, so final mile and moving. So just giving it to you straight facts. I don't have favor one way or the other. Is basically what I'm saying based on experience. Top of the cab, then yeah, if you get it put on the top of the cab, that's dope. Um, did my first long distance move went well, but won't be doing that again till I get licensed. You was on the under the table at. Well, you was in a what you was in your van, or you was in a like a rental truck, like a U-Haul. Where you go to? 26 footer. You moved it from North Carolina to where? Oh, that ain't bad. You ain't that wasn't bad. North Carolina to South Carolina. That ain't bad. Is there any money in moving? You're gonna make the most money in moving if you're in the right market and you willing to work. Yeah, that's where you're gonna make the most money at. You know what you're doing. You know how to keep costs as far as claims down. You're gonna make your most money in moving with a box truck. That's hands down. So yeah, you can make money in moving. No problem. All right, y'all. That's my time for the evening. I appreciate y'all. I'm about to skedaddle. Until next time, guys. Peace out.